Whether in the ghetto or in the street, suburban chic stay magnifique. Cash your check every other week. Working night and day so the kids can eat. But they want kicks and MP3 players, name brand jeans and 6 cell phones. The ones that rock the loudest ringtones. If they don't get it, then they can't leave home. Singing my gigabytes is big, it ain't yours. It's an arms race for the newest toys. Spread through the girls, caught to the boys. Welcome to the new funk.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to Blackballed. My name is James D. Fiore, and today I have the esteemed honor of introducing a person who I met, I guess it must be like 20 years ago now, through a friend. I had a friend named Nigel Williams, still have a friend named Nigel Williams, who is the frontman, was the frontman of an amazing band called the Pocket Dwellers. And he introduced me to a lot of people back then that were sort of doing the grind in Toronto. And one of them is my next guest. His name is Phatt. And what I really like about Phatt is that he was the first guy I ever saw with a cape on in public. And I was like, yeah, all right. That works for me. Phatt, how are you, buddy?
All good. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, man. I haven't seen you in a long time. And I remember one time that I saw you. I don't think this was the last time, but you might remember this. So your name is Phatt. My name is James. And we were walking across that Spadina and like Queen. And we ran into each other halfway across the street. And you looked at my stomach and you're like, oh, we've traded places. Because you had like dropped 100 pounds at the time. So I was like Phatt James and you were just like, Al. At that moment.
Don't worry. I found every one of those that I dropped. I picked them all back up. All back up.
You know what's funny is that day I remember thinking to myself when I left the house, you know what? You're too good to suck in your stomach. And then boom, Phatt Al's just like, you better suck in your motherfucking stomach.
Reverse my position on that. Push it out. Push it out.
Yeah, just push it out as far as you can. Listen, man, you were one of the most hardest working musicians I think I've ever met. You were always grinding no matter what. Jazz Fest, you're basically the unofficial headliner at every Beaches Jazz Fest. Like people crowd around your stage and are just like, this guy is amazing. Where did you get that work ethic from? Like was that passed down from a parent, or was it just like, were you just laser focused on your music and you were just like, this is what I have to do?
No, I definitely got that from my mom. Growing up, my mother, I mean, she went to school and worked like 3 jobs. And my mom and dad weren't together, but my dad was a carpenter. So he was always like, he worked with his hands and worked really hard also. But just really seeing my mother like become a nurse and take care of us. And at the same time, try to like instill in us, like, listen, you work hard. You can also like go on a vacation type of thing. And she really kind of showed us that, like, you know, as hard as you work, as you will be rewarded, right? But also work smart. My mother is a very astute person in terms of like getting some real estate and stuff. And at a time where we were coming up, that it was like, why do you need to get a second house type of thing? It's like, I'm renting that one out. And they're like, what? That doesn't make any sense. Like, you know, very forward thinking. She was house hacking before it was even called house hacking. We had people living in the basement and stuff. Like it was very interesting growing up.
We had people living in the basement.
Yeah.
Don't go to the basement now. Don't go to the basement.
We were like the only people on the block that was like, yeah, our tenants. And like, you have tenants? Like, I don't know. That's what they're called. The people live in the basement.
Were you in Scarborough? Is that where you grew up?
Yeah.
Whereabouts?
So we left. We were in Ontario housing in North York at Wakanda Place. I don't know if you know Wakanda down by Dawes Road. Is kind of a rough neighborhood, and we moved out to right behind Kennedy Station. So we were like on Kennedy and Eglinton, literally behind Kennedy Station. So they used to have this big fence at Kennedy Station, and we were like then train tracks, then our house. So people would cut through our yard and like cut a hole in that fence every like 3 months. They'd patch that fence up. Within a day, somebody'd come with bolt cutters, cut through it because it was like the easiest way to get to Kennedy Station.
You weren't working hard enough. You could have charged like a loony. Okay, come on through. Come on through. We got the bolts.
Come through.
We got the bolt cutters.
We're part of the TTC.
Yeah. How many times then that you must have a lot of good memories taking that train downtown to go to a gig then? Like that must have been like constant for you.
You know what? I actually went to Central Tech for high school.
Right.
I was supposed to go out here in Scarborough, and I was like, my dad lived downtown, and so I got used to like going downtown to where he lived. He used to live near Christie Pitts, so around high school age, I was like, nah, I want to go to school downtown. Like that's where the action is. So I would take the train every morning from Kennedy to Bathurst, and then hang out with my friends until as late as I possibly could, and then come home. So I was constantly on the train. So gig nights would be interesting only because after like 2:00, you're taking the blue line bus back to Scarborough, and it would be like
the vomit comment.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Everybody
I can still smell it right now. I can smell the vomit.
Oh, the smell of vomit in there, because there's everybody coming from the clubs at that time. It's like piled on,
barfing up jerk chicken and cocaine.
Oh, like, it was a scene, man.
It's funny. I just saw a clip the other day. I don't know if you saw it, but there was a TTC worker filming two drunk people on his bus when the bus was out of service, and he got fired. And I'm just sitting here at home like, does anyone remember the vomit comment? It was like that every single night for like 2 decades.
Also, like they were so laid out that like I think what got him fired was his commentary, because he was
the like, commentary was the best part.
It was hilarious. It was like, but I'm like, if in one point of that commentary he'd just be like, "Are you okay?" I think everybody would have been like, but he was like, "Look at these two. Oh my God.
What'd you have for dinner? Pizza? Is that pizza on the floor?"
They've had too much to drink. Man, they've been drinking. I was like, okay.
This vomit brought to you by King Slice. King Slice.
Yeah. One tweet of like, I think they're okay, or they're going to be fine. I think. Yeah. Because people are like, well, did you go over there and take their pulse and make sure that I was like, no, they're drunk. Like, they're fine.
As I'm talking to you right now, I'm thinking of all these things. I was like, I'm trying to retrieve memories of Phatt Al, and I have one. I'm going to be delicate about it because I'm one of those guys that doesn't care about mentioning your name, but I don't want to cause any flack for you. But maybe you'll remember who I'm talking about. Someone got a little bit too big for their britches, and you knew this person, and this person came up to you and was like, "Excuse me, sorry, who are you?" And you're like, "It's Phatt Al," because you were like, "You know who I am." Do you know who I'm talking about?
Is that the one? Kevin? Kevin? Yeah.
I was like, I don't want to like talk about Kevin, necessarily, but like there's an interesting thing. Like I'll give you an example. I've had this podcast for about a year. I've had like Noam Chomsky on and like some big names like even in weird places like science, like Lawrence Krauss, and just these names that like are big on the internet. You know who the only person that's turned me down so far? Kevin.
Was it Jay-Z?
Jay-Z said yes. No, he didn't.
Then Kevin.
I do that once in a while, though. I asked, the other day, I was like, well, he doesn't really talk to anybody, but maybe Daniel Day-Lewis will answer me. You know what I mean? Like, once a day, I'm just like, give me a top-tier celebrity, and I'll just ask him to come to my podcast, and we'll see what happens. So every day, that's what I do. No one says yes. They're like, oh, Canada, eh? Oh, you're ranked 150th in your category in Canada? Oh, okay.
Listen, this is the town square. So at the end of the day, it's like, this is the most direct line to talk to people. And if you still want to be left in the old guard of getting on No Shade Entertainment Tonight or something like that, I'm like, great, gloss me up. But like, I'd rather just have like a real conversation,
Yeah, exactly. So, and I approached you in 2003 at Nigel's actual referral to be a part of that Eat the Beat thing, where you were basically the intro. I remember all your lines because I remember because I watched that fucking thing like 1,000 times.
I'm sure
trying to get it right.
Editing that was insane.
Oh my God, there's so many things that. Yeah, there were so many things that went wrong with that. Like, just to give the audience an idea, I created this idea where it was like, freestyle MCs would stand in front of a screen that flashed these like 3D graphics, and the rapper had to freestyle based on the shit that he sees float across the screen. I called it front proof freestyling, and I thought it was like a good way to get into the modern age because they were still doing shit back then with pulling shit out of a hat or something like that, which is fine. It's old school. I liked the way it was done way back in the day when people would just take a bunch of records out of a crate and just like flashcards, and the rapper would freestyle based on whatever he saw in front of him. I'm bringing all this up because I'm very confused. When we grew up, a freestyle had a definition.
Yeah.
And it was thinking of rhymes off the top of your head in that moment and spitting them out of your fucking mouth.
Yeah.
And then something happened, and I don't know what happened. It was like Biff from Back to the Future. It was like cannabis or something went back in time and changed the definition of a freestyle so that he could be down, or something. And it became like, well, if no one's ever heard the verse before, then yeah, it's a freestyle.
Yeah.
Can you tell me what the fuck happened there? Like, did I miss something?
The corporatization of this shit, man. I mean, it's like, so it's interesting because at the time when we were coming up, it was you had to grind against the machine in the sense of there were so many gatekeepers that were there. You constantly had to prove your worth to those gatekeepers. So look, I can freestyle, I can write. Like, think of Eminem meeting Dr. Dre, right? Like, at that point in time, a record deal had a whole different definition than it does now. You were shut out of like getting on MTV or Much Music. You were shut out of getting on radio. You were shut out of doing your making a music video. Like, everything was cost prohibitive. Everything was controlled by the major labels, and then you had to get into that system, right? So you're constantly like I can dance, I can like, I can freestyle. Now it's like you're your own little corporation, and you're walking in saying, look, this is my brand. We weren't walking in with a brand. We were just walking in as like kids going like, can you tell me how I get onto your record label? Now we're walking in and it's like, no, I need to be fully branded when I walk in. So I don't have time to make up a rap for you. I need to make sure that when I'm in here, the boutique is set up and I know it's gonna look like, because I got to put this on Instagram. I got to put this on MySpace and into Facebook, into Instagram, into Twitter, into IG, right? So it's one of those things where, in a weird way, they're way more sophisticated than we were, and in their minds' eyes, like, yo, I don't have time to look bad with a freestyle because I wasn't feeling it that day. I've got to deliver every single time because I'm my own boss right now, and I really do run my own like media company.
Yeah, I actually kind of hated it at the time, to be honest with you. Like, if someone were to like, if two rappers saw each other at a party and figured out that they were rappers, there'd always be that fucking guy like in the corner be like, freestyle battle, and it's just like, why can't people just cipher?
Yeah,
like ciphering was like, just like spit a verse. Like, everyone was like, it went immediately from, we've discovered rappers here, let's battle. Like, it was never like a peaceful. And I don't know, that bothered me about the scene a little bit because and Toronto's tough enough as it is. It's not called the Screwface capital for nothing. Like, you are such a talent. If you know who God Made Me Funky is, you already know. If you don't, I don't know what you've been doing, but you need to go check them out. But your performance and the substance that you bring on stage, speaks for itself. Did you ever have to face Well, you must have when you were young. Face that sort of like this room. Like when you're like they wait for the best punchline ever, and then they go like this. Wasn't bad.
Yeah, I mean, when I was first coming up, I was pretty effective of like, so I would do things that like a lot of other rappers didn't do. So, for example, when I first started wearing a cape on stage, people would be looking at me like, what are you doing? And when I first started, I was wearing like a red sheet tied around my neck, right? Like it wasn't. And then later on, I got cape sewn into my clothes, which was like,
I found it near Kennedy Station and just thought it looked good.
I got the Canadian flag sewn into a suit jacket where I was wearing white gloves and a hat with horns. With a Cookie Monster on the front, right? So I show up and people be like, what is this? What's going on?
It's
And he's
fucking
like,
the
oh,
Black
that's the rapper.
Caligula on
Yeah.
acid. That's what that is.
Yeah, it was like he's not the guy with the baggy jeans and stuff. Like, and then I have I had a mic stand, and I'd seen Freddie Mercury a performance of Queen. I think it was in Wembley Stadium or something, and he. See him with that half a mic stand, he would hold it like a scepter because then he'd put on the cape and the crown, and I'm like, yo,
Yeah.
I got to do that. So I got it, and that time that movie Drumline came out. I don't remember
right.
Nick Cannon and Drumline, and they walk, and when they're walking with it, the batons and stuff. So I was like, what? I'm holding a baton. So I started.
Did you throw that shit?
Oh my gosh, I that's my jam. Like, take it.
I seem to remember this. You did this a lot too, didn't you?
Yeah, I would hold it in between the thing. Yeah. I would take it, flip it around.
Waiting for the salads to finish their set.
Oh yeah.
Whoever.
You
still keep in contact with any of the guys that like you used? Because I don't know who you played with. I just guessed the salads, but like we did. Yeah. I always thought there was like an ecosystem of bands like in Toronto, and you guys were part of it. Pocket 12s were part of it. Your favorite rapper wears a skirt. Eternia. You know, she was kind of down with all that stuff back then. Do you keep in contact with any of those up and comers that you were with like 15, 20 years ago?
You know what? Not as much. Most people have just aged out in the sense of like they've got families and other responsibilities. But I know like people haven't like stopped doing it. It's just they have stopped doing it as much. And like you're right, it's a grind, right? Like we were coming up at this weird time that was kind of like the end of the record power of the record industry, and
otherwise known as the Ivan Berry era.
Exactly, right? So you were in this like hey, do I go to Ivan or do I put this record out on CD myself?
Ivan's like, I'm very busy. I'm only signing Tom Green this year.
Yeah.
I can't believe the industry sucks here. Like,
Ivan went on to I can't remember the name of the publishing company he helped found, which was like, oh yeah, great. Well, yeah, but at that time I was like, do I want to sell you my publishing? No, I want to keep it myself, don't I? And I have that option. So yeah, it's an interesting time because it was just before YouTube became a thing, and just after I was like, oh, iTunes is out and we can start distributing our own music. Wow, what's going on here? So a big tectonic shift happened in that time, and it was tough. It was tough to like navigate the technology that was coming out, which for me, I thought was amazing. I remember when MySpace came out and we'd be on tour and I could target the people in the different towns and be like, hey, we're in your town tomorrow, come through, and then get out to like New Brunswick or out in Halifax and stuff. And people be like, yeah, I got your message on MySpace and that's why I came. And me being like, whoa. Because before that, it was like, we had to like hire people to put up posters in the city that we were going in. Yeah. Now I could really focus on that. So that was amazing to me, but it was so new. Everything was so new and building.
Yeah, I think we have a little bit of, I mean, I don't know if we would, I think a lot of savvy artists that were in hip hop and rock and stuff kind of followed the lead of electronic music artists, because they were still dealing with the fact that no label were signing them. So everything they were doing was independent, and everything they were doing was online. And I happened to just, in a very fluky way, I met this dude, became his roommate, and his roommate at the time, our third roommate, was like one of the biggest rave producers in Toronto. And I knew nothing about the scene. So as soon as I stepped into that apartment, all of a sudden I'm like backstage with Tiesto, all cracked out on ecstasy, going, holy shit, this is a pretty fucking cool scene. And they were doing stuff in the year 2000 and stuff that I had never seen before. Like they were organizing their entire business, their brand, online with no help of any labels, and they were doing good,
Yeah, I mean, just think of the rave in and of itself. That's a concert that you put on by yourself. And remember, you'd go to, and there'd be like 2,000 to 5,000 kids in a field, and you're like, how'd you get all these people? Like, where did these people come from, right? And there was no
culture.
Yeah, and it wasn't like, oh well, Ticketmaster put this together for us, like a couple like shroom heads.
The tribe message board put this together.
Yeah,
is what. And it was cool about it too is that until like 2001 or something, if you were at a rave and there was like 1,000 people there in some fucking barn or farmland in Belleville or something, and if someone got hurt, people helped them. Like
yeah.
there was, it was the most I'm obviously too young to know what it was like in the 60s, but I think that was our generation's 60s, like in a way, that
Sure.
electronic music rave scene.
For sure. I
Yeah.
mean, those concerts, you met so many different people from different places, but also just like as much as people think, oh, it was just drug fueled mania, we were all like, we were taking drugs that made us feel good, like to touch each other and hug each other and be in the
Yeah.
same place. And
What do you
dance
got
and move
against
and shit.
drugs? They make us feel good.
Yeah, it was well, it was kind of like at that point where you're like, well, my parents say don't do these drugs because, and you're like, well, have a little of this. Like, oh, I'll try it, but I don't know. And they're, whoa, I can see
Yeah.
Jesus, right?
I tell people,
Like,
I tell people, well, not, but I tell people sometimes that ecstasy actually, it didn't make me discover empathy, but it made me aware of it, and then it made me never lose sight of it.
that, I
Like it
mean,
stayed with me. Like, you know, when I wasn't high anymore,
yeah,
I
if
was
you
like,
ever,
empathy, eh?
yeah, and think of that. Like you went to a party out in the field to listen to boom, 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 sweat like
Yeah.
a pig, suck on a pacifier, and dance with whoever's in your vicinity. And this drug just made you feel good. Like you just
Yeah.
felt good about the people around you, and it was such a loving. It's such a weird thing to say, but it's like a
I know.
loving vibe, right? It was a really welcoming
It's
vibe,
a
especially as
difficult
a
thing
kid.
for people to understand if they A, haven't never done any drug or whatever, or B, just don't know what that scene was like. It was such
Yeah,
a cool scene that like in the late 90s or whatever, you would be, if there was 2,000 people, it wouldn't matter. You would be able to spot like a toupee the guys that had never been to a rave before that were there to like start trouble or pick up
yeah,
chicks, and then they would just get escorted out. It's
yeah.
like, you
No,
guys probably shouldn't be here.
yeah.
Like, you haven't done anything yet, but you're about to, you know?
because we were, it was really about like, it was weird. It was like becoming part of this big, beautiful organism, right? Like we just
Mm-hmm.
all had like this, like we just want to have a good time. So it was very strange. And if you went there and you know you seen some like screw face, it was like,
Yeah.
what's wrong with you? Oh,
I
you
was
need
actually
some
thinking
ecstasy.
Geno's because I'm Italian. I was like, yeah, you know those fucking Gino with the Le Chateau clothes and the cologne you can smell from the parking lot, right? Like those guys with their roofies in their pockets. So I know you only have like 5 minutes or so, but take tell me how this happened because I know it's been a few years now, but it calls it a transition. But you just did simultaneously. You went on. It says here Phatt on his transition from successful rap career to the Second City stage. But you never stopped music though, right? But like, tell me about how that happened, and then whether or not you were able to balance music with it.
So is exactly what we're talking about. This kind of the music industry changing, and me kind of like growing with it. But at the same time, as in God Made Me Funky, people were starting to get married, having kids, and I'm like, yo, we're going on tour and stuff. The touring started to really take off. We toured Canada like 8 times, side to side, and then we ended up in the States. And kind of the last vestiges were we ended up like in Cincinnati. We played a couple festivals out there. We had one where Bootsy Collins had come the year before. We met Bootsy, and then the next year he came back, and we did a track for one of his compilations and stuff. And it was like, oh my god, like this is Bootsy Collins. Like if we
Yeah,
keep doing this, like
he seems like a cartoon. Like
he
what's he
literally
like?
is exactly how he is on TV.
Oh
He
wow,
that's not a front. That's
Jesus.
not like he's not like hey baby, and then he's like hello, my name is Bootsy Collins. Like nah, it's like you meet him like what the first time we met him, somebody was like Bootsy is here, and I'm like Bootsy, you're gonna need to get a new name, buddy. There's already a Bootsy. And then I look over, star glasses, a leather top hat, motorhead motorcycle vest jacket, and like studs, and like he was dancing in the back to God Made Me Funky, and I was like, oh my god, that's Bootsy
Jesus.
And I'm leaning over to everybody like, that's Bootsy Collins, and we're all looking like that's actually Bootsy Collins. Then after the show, the promoter introduced us, and I was like, hey, Mr. Collins, Bootsy, baby, it's Bootsy. I'm like, oh my god, you're actually this person. Yeah, it was I always tell people don't meet your heroes because you meet them, you're like, oh, well, gosh, I better love you from afar. Bootsy
Yeah,
is the
that'd be
complete
weird.
opposite. It was like, oh, you're Bootsy. Everything I've seen about Bootsy Collins has just been Bootsy. So yeah, it was
Yeah,
uh
you have
really
to have
cool.
a certain way about you to pull that off. Like, do you ever meet those rappers who have like the rapper voices like this, and then when they talk to you, it's
Yeah,
like this still, and you're like, but that's not your voice,
yeah.
right?
You're
Like,
I can see you putting it up. Yeah,
yeah,
no, it was very it was actually quite beautiful. And also taught me like be you, right? Like express who you are. That's like that's a good thing. So but what was also happening was like hip hop was changing. But what change for me was I went into Second City not knowing what it was. I was just told by somebody, it's like, oh, it's like freestyle comedy. You freestyle. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know what that means. Went in, took their level A class, fell in love because it literally is comedy that is made up on the spot. And I was like, oh,
yeah.
this is exactly what I do. So went through their whole A to E program, and then I left to go back on tour with God Made Me Funky. Came back, did their conservatory, and then I moved up and I got hired by them about a year and a half after the conservatory, and moved up through their company to the main stage, where you then write a show based on
Oh,
improvising scenes. So everything was just like I already like this is what I already do. This is so it felt so natural for me to slide into that, as opposed to like stand-up comedy where you write, refine. This is you
mhm.
improvise, refine, and then you write, which for me was
Oh,
like
wow.
that's how I write a
That's
song.
really interesting. That's like a
Yeah,
reverse engineering what people would normally do.
1,000%. And but that's what we do as rappers, right? Like it's kind of like
Yeah.
this weird thing is like, oh, so I've been out doing this my whole I've been improvising my whole entire life.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Every time I
Yeah,
talk to a teacher, you know?
yeah, it was
What?
so,
Yeah.
I the interesting thing is that as I like got into it, I started telling everybody in the scene, the music scene, especially the hip hop scene, is like there's this thing that we already do. Come through to this place, you'll transition into like doing comedy, but it's based on what we already do type of thing.
So
So
so funny
yeah.
because you're from Toronto. Normally, raps would be like, "Don't fucking tell anybody about
Yeah,
Second City." Okay.
exactly. Oh
I
shit!
don't
I
care
found a
what
new.
those guys at Flemo Park think. We're not
Yeah,
doing it with them.
yeah. For me, it was like I need more rappers around me so we can do even some more like freestyling in the comedy and stuff. So I always encourage, especially now I meet people, but like you said, the art of the freestyle has drastically changed and is diminished a lot. So
Oh, was that the
people.
question I asked? That was like 20 minutes ago. I forgot what the
No,
question.
no, it was a statement.
um, yeah, no,
It
no,
was
I get it.
a
Listen,
statement of fact.
before you, I know you got to go. You have a meeting in like 7 minutes, but like, explain this picture for me, please, because I think it's dope. Who's the
Uh,
chillionaire?
uh, so, um, uh, Addie Tully did that image for me. Um, I've always been into art, but I didn't believe that my art was very good. So I went to Addie and I was like, "Here's this image I have. Can you make it good?" And uh, um, he took it. What I'm holding there is a mic saber. So you wrap into the microphone,
Ah.
and that's how the energy comes out of it, right? That's my Jedi
Oh
weapon of
wow.
choice.
You're only on
And
like 1/3 power there, buddy. You
yeah,
need
no,
to.
no, I just that's just me opening my mouth.
Someone said
That's
the
just
word
me
fat
yawning
L.
at
It's got a third charge now.
the
It's going. It's going well.
wait till I start rapping.
Yeah.
And
Um.
yes, and at the time too, a lot was changing for me in my own mindset of like what success was. I had always said to myself, I want to be a millionaire by the time I'm 35, but I didn't know what that meant, and I didn't know why that was important to me to have $1 million, by the time I'm 35. Mind you, this now is so a couple of years ago, $1 million. Now I was like, oh, okay, so are you
I'll
then
still take it. It's
you
still
you
enough.
poor?
You can
Yeah,
you can get some groceries with it or something.
you're
You know.
looking to buy an apartment, Al,
Yeah.
type of thing. So yeah, it was then I kind of realized at 35, I was like, you know what I actually want to do is I want to be able to like be cool and chill in my life. I think that's what I
Mm,
actually want. I want peace, peace of mind. And I
yeah.
thought that $1 million would earn you peace of mind. in the pursuit of that, I met so many people with much more than $1 million who were not happy, who were just like, in more pursuit of more stuff. And I was like, okay. I think I found a place for myself mentally that I'm in a much more chill zone. And that is worth my $1 million, right? I think,
Totally. Yeah,
so
you know it's funny that you say that because the pandemic made me realize something, and that's like I ended up on this like Olympian writing schedule starting in like the beginning of the pandemic. So now I write and like rhyme and sing like for like 2 hours a day for the last 2 years, and I'm 45. And I noticed that when you're not motivated by aesthetics and material things, the art is so much better.
yes.
Like when you literally don't even think of, I'm making something called the midlife mixtape for my children. When daddy's dead, they can play it or use it as a coaster or something at their dinner parties. But like, I made it for them. And all of a sudden I realized two things. One thing is that rappers that fall off at age 38, it's because they just stopped working.
Yeah.
And the second thing is when I'm motivated not to care if the song is 3 minutes so that radio ads can exist, I'm so much happier.
Yeah.
And the music is better. I'm still not going to be fucking well known, but like I'm having fun.
It doesn't even like the crazy thing is how much better I'm sure you've gotten, just because you have that mindset, right? Of like, I'm not trying to attain this thing, therefore please this region.
Which is a good thing. I'm not trying to attain that thing because I don't know if the market is ready for 45-year-old white guys who live in the forest in Canada.
You know what? Listen, Eminem is, how old is Eminem now? He's gotta be in his 40s,
48,
right? Like,
yeah, but dude, I'm a white rapper between the in the dark ages between Vanilla Ice and Eminem. Like you didn't.
I don't know.
Just
history repeats itself. It comes back. Yeah. It's like bell bottom.
I'm just saying, at the time, it wasn't that easy.
No,
it really wasn't.
Listen, you were out there in the woods, and then it was like, who do you, Vanilla Ice? Oh man! But here's the funny thing: Vanilla Ice is back, right?
Been back. So, he's doing halftime shows for 2 years now.
You know what I'm saying? Right? So at the end of the day, it's like you're vintage now. You're retro. Go get that money, bro.
Well, speaking of vintage and retro, dude, you're going to be doing your thing for a lot more years. I know it. Is there anything happening for you right now? Any shows? Any Second City side? I know it's tight with. It's just loosening up now, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I do teach at Second City. If you ever want to come through and do some improv, check out secondcity.com Toronto. I'm working with Bad Dog Theater right now, doing their incubator program. I'm going to have a show coming out in, I believe it's in May, mid-May. I'm not sure of the dates yet, but it's going to be like a fractured fairy tale. With a lot of musical fractured fairy tale improvised show where we get a suggestion from the audience of something that's happening in the world today. Oh gosh, I already know what the suggestions are gonna be. And then we turn it into a fractured fairy tale.
Just plant me in the audience. I'll give you whatever.
James, what's happening?
I'd like to talk about Ukraine.
Wonderful. But yeah, it's one of those things wherein I'm teaching improvisers to rap because not enough rappers have taken me up on getting into improv. Yo, get into
Hey, I sent you that curriculum thing. How much did you steal of that for to be part of your curriculum? No. Do you remember that?
Oh, no. We were gonna know what?
Yeah.
You know what? We were working on that back and forth back in the day and stuff. I teach improvised freestyle raps at Second City. I worked with also a guy, Douglas Whittick from New York. He's in North Coast. It's a New York freestyle improv crew. You should check it out. It's actually really innovative, right? Younger white guy, but like the dude, I was like, whoa, what are you doing? This is what I've been trying to get done in Toronto for the longest time. So I worked with him. I remember like stuff we had worked on, and I've just been like kind of mashing curriculum together, and like, but also getting on the ground, working with kids, working with adults. At this point in time, I can teach any adult how to rhyme in 6 weeks. And like,
yeah, for kids too, linguistics, speech impediments. It's known now for like that freestyling or that kind of phonical. I
1,000%.
don't think that's a
I
word,
have
you
a
know, but
speech
like,
impediment. I have a lisp, and
but you still sound crisp.
yeah. Thank you. I get the reference.
That's good.
But it's like, but for me, every time I speak, I am thinking of my S's, right? You can tell when I don't drink. So when I have one drink, you're like, oh, there's that
Yeah.
list. It's totally there.
I
'Cause
don't
I'm
I don't
thinking
drink
about it.
anymore either. And what I've learned about like enunciation is punching vowel words instead of melting it into the whatever last word you said. So
Yeah.
instead of throw away, it's like throw away. You know,
Yeah.
it's like you punch it out. I just discovered that on my own, which makes me, you know, a guy that doesn't read.
You don't read out loud, but now you do.
Yeah.
Now you do.
Yeah, that's right.
Read out loud. and
Listen,
proud.
Fat
Yeah.
Al, buddy, I know you got to go, man. I know you have a meeting. But it was great catching up with you. Next time I go into the city, we'll see if we can get together for what the fuck did you drink again? Milk and orange juice? What was that?
Oh God, orange juice and diet Coke. It was called a Fat Al.
Yeah,
I
because no one else wanted it.
I'm too old. I'm too old for that now. Diabetes. I'm running away from diabetes as we speak.
Okay, good.
So,
Okay, good. Yeah,
so
don't let it catch you, buddy.
Chill on the OJ.
All right, Fat Al, man. Thanks for coming out, brother. We'll talk soon, and we'll get you back on the show in the next few months or so.
Most Def, James. Peace.
All right, thanks, man. Thanks, man.
Hey.
Dude, that was Fat Al. He's one of my favorite people. Just a dope guy to talk to hang with, and to watch perform. God Made Me Funky. He's at Second City. Go to secondcity.com or .ca. I'm not sure what he said. You'll figure it out. And look up Fat Al. The improvisational class is something that I'd be doing right now if I lived in Toronto. So big shout out to Fat Al. We have a show on Monday, and I don't want to say who the guest is yet because it's going to be a surprise. And yeah, I can do that because it's my show. So fuck it. My name is James. This is Blackballed. Thank you for watching, and we are off.